Hello, everyone, and welcome to Business Conversation with Gaitha. Welcome today for this great and amazing conversation we'll be having with Terryanne Chebet, who is the creative behind the Kiara Organics brand. And today we'll be talking about building a business, building a successful business and building a successful brand. And so when I came up with this conversation, I just thought, you know what, I think Terryanne is the best person to talk to each one of us about how to build a business brand and why it is very, very important. So again, thank you, Terryanne, for joining me today. I really, really do appreciate it. I know you're very, very busy. So I will go ahead and just not take too much of your time. So for those of you who don't know me or have not been on my show before, my name is Gaitha. I run a company called Regal Africa, and we are all about creating wealth. We are all about creating wealth. And for me, what I say, if you're thinking about creating wealth, especially generational wealth, then you need to be thinking about building a business, or at least investing in business, and making sure that you have investment income. And today, like I said, we've been saying that we need to be very intentional in building successful businesses that are scalable and that are African grown. And so today we'll be having the amazing guest, like I mentioned, her name is Terryanne Chebet. I know a lot of you people know her. She's an amazing business journalist. Well, that's her. And she is an author of a book, which I hope she'll be sharing with us today. And also Terryanne is an entrepreneur. She runs Kiara Organics, which is a skincare brand that is based out here in Africa. So again, welcome Terryanne Chebet to our show. And I hope today you'll be giving us some nuggets, some tips on how to build successful business brand. So I know I can go on and on about you and the experiences in the business world and what it is that you've been doing in regards to entrepreneurship. But I think I'll just start off by just saying, Terryanne, if you could just share with us 5 minutes about who Terryanne is and what Kiara Organics is, so then we can just start off this conversation. So thank you, Terryanne, for joining me. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And first of all, my apologies. I was hoping I would be here bang on time, and I wasn't. So my sincere apologies for that. But I'm really excited about this conversation because branding is a pet topic of mine. Not only branding when it comes to business, but branding as an individual as well. And for me, because my person is, I'm my own business as well. This personal branding and business branding finds a place to merge and has to find a place for to merge. And I feel that for many entrepreneurs, that is basically the same space we're in. You're building your business brand, but you have to build your brand at the same time. So as an introduction, my name is Terryanne Chebet, as Gaitha said. I am many things. I wear many hats. I am a media practitioner by training and by experience for over 15 years. I recently made the big jump from traditional media into entrepreneurship, and I'm now focusing on my skincare business called Kiara Organics. So basically, in a wrap, my
We lost you there for a minute, Terryanne.
All right, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah, it was just a minute. Yes.
Okay. So in a nutshell, and it's very easy to confuse being in the public space with having a brand. There's still a lot of work that I've had to put in building my personal brand, as well as the brand, for the businesses that I run. So yes, and that's me in a nutshell. It's entrepreneurship is a crazy journey. You know that, maybe even more than I do. But I always believe the first place we start is the brand building, and the recognition and the promise that the business is giving to the customers. And once we have that in place, which is all carried within the branding space, then we can begin to push properly from there. So I'm excited about today, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you, Anne.
Okay. Thank you, Terryanne. And again, another reason why I brought you on the show is because, like you said, I've been in the entrepreneurship space. That's how we met. But it's been very fascinating how you've been able to separate Terryanne, build the Terryanne Chebet brand, and also build Kiara Organics brand. Well, I've been known to run my business, Regal Africa. And then, of course, I'm Anne Gaitha, which is separate from Regal Africa. And it's been very hard to separate them because I keep telling people I'm building a business, not a consultancy. So you won't always meet me at my business. You will meet my employees. But that has been very challenging. But I see you've been able to work around it. So I would like us to have more conversations about that. But before I go into the details about Kiara and how you separate your brands, my first question for you, Terryanne, is this. Why do you think branding is important for businesses? I know you've alluded to it a little bit, but I want you to just go a little bit deeper. And do you think someone needs to create a brand for them to be successful in business? So why is it important, and does someone have to create a brand in order for a business to be successful?
Okay, so branding is creating an identity about whatever it is that you want to put forward. It could be yourself, it could be your business. So for now, I'll speak about the business or your business. There are many aspects of a business, and I always say, no matter the size, it may be a little retail store, it could be a big company where you're dealing with on a B2B level. You could have a small business that level. I think my speaker seems to be having a problem, but do let me know if you lose me again.
We missed you for just a little bit, but yeah, but now I can hear you perfectly.
Can you hear me, Anne?
Yes, I can hear you now very well.
All right.
Go on, carry on.
All right, I seem to be having a problem with my audio on my computer. So saying a brand that has done its job, and we can look around our country today, and I always say, look at a brand like Safaricom, for instance, and many other of the big brands. They have never stopped building their brand, no matter how big they become. And for us as entrepreneurs, as startups, and as businesses playing in a much smaller level, then how much more must we invest in creating that brand? And branding isn't necessarily just marketing. It's everything from your logo. How has your logo been done? What does your logo communicate? Is it unforgettable? And then, what's your vision? What's your mission? What is your brand promise? And all of these things are, especially for people in the small space, because we start businesses based on intuition. And, I know this, I'm really passionate about this. I'm going to start it, call a quick friend, hey, please set me up a logo. And then we kick off. And sometimes we don't pay attention to stuff that we must pay attention to, such as brand strategy. And where do you start with brand strategy? It's looking at your business and saying, this is where I want the business to go. So how will I get there from a brand perspective, not from a sales perspective, not from from cash flow perspective, just as a brand on its own. Where do you want your brand to go? Do you want to be visible? Do you want to be recognized as the best in the space that you're operating in? And what do you want people to say about the brand? What taste do you want to leave in the mouths of people who encounter or engage with your brand? And usually, that's where we have to start, and it has to be extremely consistent. And I've just mentioned the story of Safaricom, and no matter how big and how far they've come, they are extremely consistent, one, with their brand strategy and their brand story, and insisting on telling it over and over again. I think some of us can sing, some of Safaricom's ads beginning to end. If you look at an ad on the street, no matter how far away it is, you can tell what it is. And some brands like Kenya Airways, telling their story. My computer is telling me I need to relaunch.
Oh, wow. It looks like we've just lost Terryanne. She's having issues with her computer, so I'm hoping she gets back on because I was really intent listening to what she's been saying because that has been my journey in entrepreneurship, where really I have found that building a brand is really, really important. It's not really about the product and actually having sales, but it's actually building that brand. As Terryanne was mentioning, big brands like Safaricom, or one of the largest brands in the world, Coca-Cola, is constantly building brands, and they never stop. So for me, who's trying to grow my business, why should I just think that building my brand is a one-time thing? It has to be something that is continuous. So I'm very glad that Terryanne mentioned that, because this is something that I have been learning, and I actually had to find that out from my brand strategist, which is a company called Elite Global Branding, who've been doing my branding for a while. And before, like I said, I wasn't paying too much attention to it. I just thought present a good product and it will sell itself, until I learned no, there is purpose in branding yourself. There is purpose in positioning yourself. So that is something I was very happy to hear Terryanne mention. So Terryanne, I was just adding to what you were saying before. I don't know what exactly happened. And I really agree with you, because maybe I came from the backside in banking where everything was done and you have a good product, people know about it. So it's just about providing a solution. And sometimes business people just don't focus on the brand, but it's important to build a brand. In fact, when I'm watching you right now, I am loving that, because I love that brand Peperuka, which is me. I love Kenya. One guy has built an amazing brand. I met her a couple of years ago, and I'm always like championing and saying, you go girl, you're doing great things. And that is something that is recognizable. Like immediately I saw, like, me, I love Kenya, and I just thought Peperuka. So thank you for that. So I know we were disconnected for a little while, but maybe you can just continue what you were talking about in regard being consistent in your brand story, being consistent in how you position yourself to the market.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Anne. And somehow my Zoom said it needed me to relaunch, and I believe that's why I was having a problem with the audio. But hopefully, I'll be on until the end without a problem. So I was speaking about the importance of a brand strategy, and especially at the beginning of the business, where you have to think of the how, the what, where, when, and whom you plan to communicate, and how you want to deliver your brand messages. And the reason I've used the examples that I have, such as Safaricom, Equity Bank, you've talked about Coca-Cola as well, they are unforgettable because they create such strong brand messages. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, especially when you're a big brand, you can afford big agents. Our side, it's just taking that extra thinking, having some minds around the room who can sit with you, working with smaller agencies that understand what a small business and the challenges of small businesses are. And you can still build a very strong brand strategy, no matter what size your business is. And sometimes I say you may not even, absolutely need a whole agency, but you can work with a consultant. Just to speak around with people and find out, is there somebody who can come hang out at your office maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, just to help you, build that brand strategy. Because in the market we live in, we are in today, the competition is so tough that if your brand doesn't stand out, it could either be thought of as, of lower quality, just because you haven't put enough attention into, stuff around the branding. In my space, and if I can talk about it for a minute, like Care Organics, when we kicked off, of course it was on intuition. However, I did speak to someone who's in the branding and the logo space, and he created for us what I believe is a really beautiful brand. But I was always, sort of itchy, and I moved on to something else. And deep down, I believe that very first logo was the best one we ever had. In fact, I'm thinking of going back to it. But we have then moved on to a brand that really speaks about what we are. the first logo we had and the brand look and feel was around Maasai beads. And our logo was created using Maasai beads, which I absolutely love because it speaks to who we are as an African brand, because our raw material is collected from across Africa. We pick our marula oil from South Africa or from here in Kenya. We take our argan oil from Morocco. We have our coconut oil from the Kenyan coast, Malindi. Our shea butter is from Uganda. So we are very proud that we are an African brand. So my logo needed to speak to that. So what we have now is is a leaf which speaks to the organic and the natural factor of all our products. And just going through the different looks that we've had, I realize now also the importance of getting small focus groups who are your clients, people who have used your product, and just finding out what do they really want, what are some of the things that they identify with, because building a brand again. I did.
Yeah.
It's asking me to relaunch.
You're back on right now, but
okay. All right, sorry about that. So it's important to speak to other people and just to find out, what is it, or what kind of looks and feel would they love if it was on, would they buy? Because packaging is everything, especially for us in the skincare side. You can have a wonderful, beautiful product, but if it's not packaged well from a look and feel perspective, if it's not packaged well from a brand story perspective, then we might not get it. And I've come across brands that are amazing, but the packaging is just needs a lot of help. And I've come across brands that are like, not so good, but then their brand story, their packaging is A1. They cannot even compete on the same shelf. So branding is all that, and making sure that you've achieved all your quality standards right from the beginning, and then now coming out from the branding perspective, which is more of the visible look and feel. And
great. Thank you for that, because like I said, I think it's very important. In fact, what I've been telling a lot of people, there are 3 key assets that you need as a business. Financial assets, which is what I focus on, but your brand asset is very important. And also your talent asset, because you can't grow a business by yourself. So those 3 assets is what I always say people need to really focus on. So thank you again for that. Now, Terryanne, one of the main things, and I alluded to it earlier, was you've been able to separate, or I think you've been able to separate the Terryanne brand well from the Kiara Organic brand, which stands on its own as an African brand, good quality African, global. I mean, that just can stand right there with other great skincare products from around the world. You've been able to separate Terryanne, the journalist, from the entrepreneur. So for entrepreneurs who are out there, who are having that challenge between promoting their personal brand and their business brand, how would you tell someone to navigate that journey in branding?
All right. And I'll be honest with you, the reason I had to separate the brand was mostly because I was employed fully by somebody else. So they owned my, my personal brand at that time, so to speak, not entirely, but they did. When I worked for Royal Media, for instance, I was a business journalist. I was employed by the company. So I didn't want to help to clash, so I kept that almost separate. But now that I'm completely in business, I'm actually struggling to, create that, to merge the two, because then my personal brand is a lot more, elevated compared to, the brands of my products. However, I'll also say that at the beginning, when I started off Kiara, I thought of products that, you know, the multinationals, the Niveas, you know, the Vaselines, all of them. And I was like, I don't know who started this product. You know, we don't know their, well, some people might know, I don't know who, you know, who started this product. And I said, okay, there must be a way that I can still grow this product on its own, to develop its own brand, to develop its own market, and stand on its own feet, which is still what I want to do. But then I'm happily building that brand using, you know, the places that I already have circles of influence. So for those who are, you know, maybe in employment, it's a very tricky place to be. But I would say, specifically if you're in employment, you'd have to separate, you know, the two brands. So you build your brand and really, really build the business brand, but you don't have to use yourself necessarily. And then, you know, once you're ready to transition fully into your business, then, you know, you can be known as, you know, let's say the CEO of Care Organics, because I couldn't really use that name before. So I used to like hide it in between places. But my bosses knew, because I had to, you know, do a full disclosure every time I joined a company. They knew that this is what I was doing, and I didn't hide it. But still, you don't want your employer to think, oh, she's just happily building that side hustle on company time. So it's a thin line. And, you know, because you have to retain your integrity, it's just, it's a lot of focus, and it's a lot of hard work, because, you know, work hours has to be work hours. If, you know, if you've promised your employer 8 to 5, you have to do 8 to 5. So then home time is a mix of mommy and work at home as well. So it can be crazy, but it's a very thin line. But I would say focus on your personal brand, but also make time for the business. And if possible, hire somebody very strong on brand growth to help.
All right. Well, I do have to say that you've done it well. It seems actually effortless. So I'd really like to say that's great, especially for a lot of us and a lot of people that I talk to who are working, but they have a side hustle, which eventually they want to make it their main business. And they're also having those challenges. So seeing you actually transition that and say, look, I actually have built my personal brand, I have a business brand, and now I'm trying to merge them together or see how I can be able to grow both, is great to see that. So thanks again for your sharing your experience and what you've done. So Terryanne, I'm really big on Africa, right? And I'm always talking about creating great African brands. What can you say, what is it that you think needs to be done African business to position themselves as a global brand? For me, I feel like it's very challenging, because immediately you say your Kenyan brand or African brand and you're proud, immediately it's taken very differently, right? Rather than someone saying, I'm a great American brand, and then everyone is running to buy that product, or I'm a great Italian brand, you know, especially you who's in the beauty industry. There's certain pockets of the world where you associate yourself with that region, and it's a plus. And yet we in Africa are starting from a place of really trying to change that perception of low quality, little small things. You really, so my question again is, how do you position your business as a global brand and just not playing small? What would you tell us to do in the business world?
It's been an interesting journey, Anne. And I remember when I started off, and you know, I was like, am I even a brand? Like, you know, is this even a real brand?
Yes, it is.
And I think that's, you know, that's one of the questions that we constantly ask ourselves as startups, where you're not really certain what you're doing. And so you do not have the confidence of introducing your business, you know, as a strong brand. But thankfully I had people around me who are constantly pushing me. They love the product, and they pushed me actually to make sure the quality of the product was great. I always tell a story about my mom. And my mom was, you know, is one of those who has always had this great products that she uses. I'll not mention them. But so I went home for Christmas, and I took her one of my products. And I was like, oh, she's gonna love it. And then when we went home for Easter, she had barely used the product. And I'm like, but you're my mom, like you're supposed to use this product. And she's like, I'm not sure about the smell. It's nice, but, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So for me, it was feedback. And the reason I'm saying that is, building a brand is a long journey, and is also a journey of confidence and knowing what your customer wants and then creating stuff that they want. So very early in the beginning, I did not even know how to describe myself. And then later on, when it hit me, I'm like, wait a minute. This was around 2014, 2015. I said, there's very few. Now we have many local brands, which is a great thing. At that time, there were probably 2 or 3 brands. And I was like, great. So I'm getting my shea butter from Uganda. I'm already getting my marula oil from South Africa and Kenya. Kenya actually produces marula oil as well. And then argan oil from Morocco. And I'm like, wait, we are an African company because we use the best of Africa's oils and butters. So what stops us from saying that we are an African company? And in the beginning, and you mentioned it earlier, the issue about quality and people's, then the perceptions have begun to change initially. And it was everything, and from the packaging, because we were not paying attention to what our packaging was like. So, and I started asking myself, if I went to a shelf, and I started going around to beauty shops, to chemists, to supermarkets, and I'd look at all the products on the shelf and I say, hey, okay, my product cannot even sit on this shelf. And I needed to get to a place where it can actually not only sit, but compete on look and feel with the other brands. And that for me is when I really started to think of the quality from a packaging side, because I knew the quality of the product was now getting better. We were getting very innovative with with the products that we're creating. And when we stopped messing around with packaging, and we got serious about it, and we said we have to import our packaging, because at the time, the local packaging that we were getting could not have competed with the multinationals on the shelf. So I said, okay, it's going to cost a little bit more on margins or on product, but we have to get to a place where a Kenyan will choose mine over a multinational product. And it's a journey. So because of that, then, we got a lot more confident, and we started calling ourselves an African company. And now more than ever, especially with the AFCFTA, Free African Trade, and the borders beginning to fall, I'm like, wait a minute, we are an African company, And now that Corona has happened, and Corona has shown us, it will be easier for us to trade with Uganda, with Tanzania, with Rwanda, with South Africa, than it has ever been, and it will ever be with with other countries outside the African continent. So for us, I'd say the time has never been better. And the time is now for us to say Africa has great quality brands. I mean, I was at Kayana yesterday. I'm just looking around for a magazine that I picked at Kayana yesterday. Pato Kello, she's doing an amazing job at Kayana. And she's got a magazine that profiles made in Kenya products. And I looked at that magazine and I said, my goodness, why are we still buying, in products? Well, maybe it's legacy and what we're used to. But if you look at that magazine, practically everything in your kitchen could be a made in Kenya product. And imagine what that means in terms of, not only just brand, but these Kenyans who are doing these small businesses are hiring Kenyans. The majority of the people they're hiring are actually young. So we are creating a whole butterfly effect just by buying one Kenyan product. So for me, this has been an incredible journey. And just to go back to your question, and on positioning ourselves as African or global brands, the time is now. And first, we must position ourselves as African brands. If you're making something small, let's even say, like, I picked this up yesterday. It's called Ash Kitchen and Grill. This is a barbecue sauce. The founder of this company, it's Ash Kitchen and Grill. I picked it up at Kayana yesterday. They started 1 week ago. Sorry.
It's the baby, it's okay.
They started just about a week ago. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We totally understand, and I believe everybody understands, men and female, because men never used to understand before, but we understand now after Corona. Yeah. We can hear you now. Yes.
All right. Let's say the person who created this is definitely working with, it could be 1 or 2 people, but they're already creating employment. And when we look especially at the cottage industry, which I'm very passionate about now, because that's a space where, the majority of us should be, we can't just wake up today and be a multinational. So the timing is perfect. We are more at home now. Many people have lost their jobs. So why not look around us and see what we can create, and together we can make that Kenyan quality. Please, let me leave you for 1 minute. Let me deal with this for 1 minute.
That's okay. That's okay. So I know our audience will understand this. So as Terryanne was mentioning, I think it's very important, especially this time that we're in. I've been telling people, buy Kenya, build Kenya. Even the government of Kenya has been saying that. And I'm always saying, even go beyond Kenya. Buy African, build African. Because the only way that we'll be able to create wealth for ourselves, create jobs, is through business and supporting our businesses. And as long as our businesses are providing the right products, the right quality at the right price, we should be able to support them. This whole idea that foreign things are better as something that I'm hoping in the next decade, and so that will be a race that people can actually buy good products from Kenya. Terryanne hasn't mentioned this, but for all of you who don't follow her, you have to follow her, because she's been doing 100 Kenyan brands. So she's been actually showcasing different Kenyan brands in different industries, people who are creating great, great things. So if you decide, look, today I want to go buy this, there's a Kenyan brand that is actually doing that. So if you support that Kenyan business or that African business, guess what? You're able to help them create jobs, build big business, and they're able to create wealth for themselves. And even you who is in business, you have to understand what is it do. One of the things that she mentioned is you have to be very confident. So for you to be confident, you need to be very sure about what you're producing, be it a good or a service. Do you know your stuff? Do you know your industry? Do you know your business? That is where confidence comes in. The other thing about it, it's a journey. You have to start from somewhere. So you won't all of a sudden be Coca-Cola, but you can start from where you are and then you build that. And it's really about paying attention to the details. Pay attention to the details. One of the things I have to say before Terryanne comes in, if you're in Kenya, you know that one of the largest exports out, or Kenyan is known for Kenyan tea. The other day, I actually Googled top 100 tea brands in the world. Guess what? None of them was Kenyan. How can Kenya be the largest exporter of tea in the world, and yet we do not have a Kenyan brand top 100? That doesn't even make sense. But then the question is, why is that? Why is that happening? Is it because we are selling our tea raw outside the country? We are not actually branding it, packaging it, actually building a business behind it. So that got me thinking and saying, we as business people, or you who's anticipating to go into business and you're an entrepreneur, what is it that you're seeing that doesn't make sense and you want to go into it? Because that is really, really important. because that is where you're going to make money, and that's how you're going to create jobs, and that's how you're going to transform the communities that you are and transform Africa, because that is where the opportunity lies. And I believe that in order for the rest of the world to buy our stuff, in order for us to buy our stuff, we really need to brand our businesses, because we need to let people know what is it that we're offering to them that is actually worth it for them to actually pay. So I can go on and on, but I do see here Nyambura is saying she has, I don't know if it's a comment or a question, but she says, that is true. Buy Kenya, build Kenya. I agree. Should be the slogan again, so we can be intentional to support our own. I totally agree, Nyambura. Buy Kenya, build Kenya. Buy Africa, build Africa. That's the only way. And as long as our business are providing the right products, the right services at a great price, right quality, it makes no sense for us then to go outside to actually buy that. And Terryanne was mentioning about everything that has happened with this pandemic, and we're really understanding, you know what, these global supply chains have been really affected. Can we look regionally, right? Can we look continentally? Because we've actually seen things being disrupted, and yet business has to go on. So we have to get to a point where we're saying, if we have a great Kenyan brand, can we support it? If we have a great African brand, can we support it? And that doesn't mean you stop using global products. I use them. And maybe it's because legacy issues, as Terryanne said, or, you know, but for me, I like great products. I can tell you that I like great things. I like good quality. And so I'll pay a premium for good products. And so, but for me, I'm always looking out for great local brands that will give me the same quality, and I support them. I am a big supporter of Kenyan and African brands, and I hope all of you do that, and I hope you grow your businesses to be a position where people will say, you know what, I have this option between this international brand and this local brand, and I will take up the local brand. So Terryanne, again, welcome again to the show. We were continuing to talk about the brand, and you, I know you had to step out a little bit, but I really wanted to talk to you about the business, right? Because this is the business conversation. One of the big things I tell people is when you're starting a business, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it, right? And people have very many reasons why they start businesses. Some people just do it organically. Others who are planners like me are very intentional. But all of it, I still think it reaches a point where in your business, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it, right? And for me, I know the story behind Kiara Organic, but I would like you to just tell people what that you started Kiara, and what are your future plans? What are your future business plans? Don't give us the nitty gritties because maybe that's trade secrets, but just tell us why you started Kiara and what are your future plans for the business.
All right. Thank you. And my little one was screaming her head off, so I just went to.
You're on mute, or I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. So I started Kiara because my older daughter had eczema, which is a dry skin condition. And the doctor at the time, explained to me how it works. There's cycles, and sometimes she'll be fine, sometimes she'll not be fine. And there's no medicine really, for eczema, which is why people with eczema have it until, adulthood as well. Some people. So what he told me was it was important to manage the bottom of the cycle. When she wasn't flaring, this meant not exposing her to harsh chemicals, perfume stuff and, stuff in that space. So what I did, so he told me, why don't you, there's this oil, it's called shea butter. I'm like, okay, where do I get it? He's like, oh, it's from West Africa, da, 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 da. And I went around looking for it. And I only found it in one shop. And because of that, then I started thinking there must be, and I knew that there were other parents whose children, and I don't know why, because I don't remember us growing up with so much eczema around us. But apparently in almost every other home, there's a child who has eczema. So I guess we're all trying to figure out? Is it what we're eating? You know, what could it be? So because of that, then I said, okay, all these parents are looking for the same thing. Why can't I look for it in bulk and repackage it and sell it to them? And that's exactly what, you know, what I did. So I bought
mind of an entrepreneur.
so it was, yeah, so I bought some packaging, and yeah, and it, you know, it kicked off from there. So the reason at the time was just, first, there was a gap. There wasn't enough of natural oils in the market, and I found a source that could then make sure that if any parent was around me was looking for the product, they knew that they could get it from me. And then, you know, we grew into out of just shea butter into other products as well, including soaps, facial oils, body butters, and then, you know, went on to now dividing our niches even more clearly in terms of products for men, products for pregnant women, pregnants for products for children, babies, infants. And it's been an interesting journey, because that has been informed by a lot of research and a lot of what the feedback that we get, you know, from our clients. And I would say, and that our journey, even where we are going now, a lot of it is informed by the people we engage with and our clients ask for on a daily basis. So it's been, so where are we going? We're going African.
Okay, great. I like to hear that.
We're going African. AFCFTA has, you know, has given us a platform, even though it hasn't been formally, you know, made. The boundaries have not really broken, but it has begun opening up the minds of everybody in trade. You know, if I can get it from Kenya, same quality as I could, you know, that comes from somewhere else, then why not get it from Kenya? It's cheaper on freight, your margins will be higher. And then, you know, it's just also that African pride thing. It's an African product, and we're building Africa together. So yes, we're going bigger the African way.
Yes, I love that, because for me, I'm all about business, and I always talk about global trade. I always say beyond Kenya, there's business out there, but I'm very, very passionate and very focused on intra-Africa trade, because I think that's the missed opportunity. And I know a lot of players are doing that, but we need to do more. And I'm really loving the fact that people are rising up to the occasion. Africa is rising, business people are rising and actually saying, can we do business with that? So thank you again for sharing your story about why you started Kiara, because you're solving a problem. You had that entrepreneurship mindset whereby you saw, got a product, and you started make money. And I believe that will just be the beginning of you creating wealth, and really specifically creating generational wealth, because that's something I've been talking to a lot of people. And so that goes to my last question before I go to the audience. I'm all about creating generational wealth, and that's why I keep telling people, as a person, you need to start thinking about your children and start saying, how will I make sure my children, my children's children benefit from all this hard work that I do? And I always say that's through business and through investment. So your daughter inspired you to start this company. So I'm curious, do you foresee Kiara being a private family business, or is your vision to scale up? And if you decide you're scaling up, does it mean you bring outside investors into your business? Is that something you've thought about? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, that is a predicament for them. They want to grow, but then they also want to hold tight. So what's the vision? Is your daughter going to take over, or what's the plan? If you can share that.
Okay. So my plan is, sorry, it takes me back to the question around, you know, the chief of a small village or the king of a small village. And I mean, Kara is now, it's a small business, and we need a lot of capital to get to where we want to be. And not just the capital, but expertise, experience, networks. And for me, that's the next phase. In as much as, yes, I still will want to, have a stake in it, so that either of my children, if they're interested at that point, could also be part of it. I'm hoping that, in a few years, I could be able to sell a part of it to, somebody who understands where I want the brand to go, and also somebody who is already, especially on the multinational space. And my thinking is this, Anne, as a Kenyan brand, it's not even easy to grow in Kenya alone. It's not easy to scale. It's not easy. So if I want to get into the, let's say, South African market, or the European market, or the American markets, it will be easier for Kiara to get into those markets with somebody who's already in those markets. They'll give us, a lot of advice. We can benefit so much from their R&D, because that's one of the biggest challenges we face in skincare locally. It's the R&D. We don't have the capacity to develop such high quality products, that maybe you and I use, from time to time. So how do we get there? For me, it's the right collaborations and the right partnerships and the right investments. So yes, it is something I'm looking forward to. And that's a big chunk of generational wealth for me. If I can build up this company to a place that is of interest to a multinational, and let it go, but not entirely, and still have a chunk that is big enough to ensure that my family is well taken care of. And last week, if I may, Anne, I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine, and she knows a lady about 20 years old who had a baby when she was about 17. And it's a very difficult time for everybody. And imagine how much worse it is for a 20-year-old mother of two, who doesn't have a job, doesn't have family, has no one. And so she asks her, so what's your plan? And the young lady says, taken care of. At least my daughter's being taken care of by a good family. So when she's old enough, I know she'll take care of me. And I'm like, but that's 18 years, or at least 20 years. Is it, and I know that, she may be from, or she is from a very difficult place, but surely we have 20 years to plan for these children who are 2 or 3 years old. And that conversation for generational wealth is even more important for our generation. And thank you for bringing that up, and continuing to raise that, so that we don't have to depend on our children. Because the African culture is very cyclical in that way. Your children, and then at some point your parents become your children. And it's such a vicious cycle, but we should be able to break it in our generation by making sure that we're building wealth, so that our children are also responsible enough to make sure that they continue to build on that generational wealth. And it's one of the biggest ways in which we can fight poverty as a country, and we can fight poverty as a continent.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I've been championing that, because I think it's actually, if you look at our ancestors in Africa, it was always about generational wealth. I don't know what happened, I don't know where it stopped, but it was always about thinking about your children's children, and somehow that changed, but I think we need to take it back. But you said a couple of things which I really like before we start this question. One, you talked about you would like to grow your business, but what you're looking for is really more of a strategic investor. You want someone to come in and help you grow and build your vision. You don't want someone to come and take over. And I think that is what we need in Africa, and especially women. And because what I have seen, because I'm in the investment space, we either have pure private equity guys, or you have debt funds, and all they're after is they're making money because that's their business. But then the entrepreneur is really looking on someone who's probably more hands-on, who can help you with network, who can help you improve. And that is also one of the things I'm doing with my wealth management department where I'm finding high net worth individuals who have the money, who have the network, who have the capability to support other businesses. And I think that's very critical, because I can tell you, I have East Gold, which is a department of Agricole Africa, where we've been doing research and asking people, how can we help you access capital? And we asked them, do you want debt, equity, or a strategic investor? And everybody was talking about strategic investor. I'm also part of this organization called WIPEC, and on September we'll be doing something around fundraising for African and African American women. The same question, debt, equity, and everyone is looking for a strategic investor, but we have very few people who position themselves as strategic investor. We have just pure debt, pure equity, and I think that's the opportunity for anyone who wants to get into the business of supporting businesses, to really think about that and say, in Africa, and especially African women, we're looking at something different. We want someone who we know cares about our business, cares about the vision, and will help us get there, because we are the ones who are running the business day in, day out. So that is very, very, very critical. So thank you again, Terryanne, for that. And I'm glad to know that you have a great vision. You're going to be in the US. Hopefully I'll help you get there. And you want to be around Africa, in South Africa. Believe me, Terryanne, it is possible. And for all business people out there, I always tell them, it is possible. Whatever you visualize, it can come true. Now, Terryanne, there are different people that are online on Zoom and Facebook. On Facebook, I see here Miriam. She says, please ask Terryanne about her campaign on IG featuring 100 brands in 100 days. How has it been? Is it going how she had expected? The learning lessons thus far, and is she doing things differently based on these insights? I mentioned to it when you had left a little bit. I love your campaign about 100 Kenyan brands in 100 days, and it's been fascinating to see the amazing things people are doing. So how has it been, and what are your learning lessons so that other business people can learn from what you've learned during this last couple of days when you've been promoting Kenyan brands?
Okay. Wow, thank you. And it's been an amazing journey of discovery. You think you know Kenyan brands until one day you're like, huh? Who? What do they do? And it's been so amazing. I'm so blown away by the quality of product. Like, if you look at my kitchen table now, I had some products delivered at the office, from people who reached me out to me on Twitter and Instagram. And they're like, can you feature our products as well? And these products are amazing. And I'm so inspired by many of them, because many of them, actually like 99%, are actually quite young. Many of them, some of them had lost their jobs during this COVID period and decided to start something. Some of them are employed and, decided to start a side hustle, which they do on the like that. So it's been an incredible journey. And for me, because it's free, I mean, I'm not asking for any payment, for anybody to pay me for it. And I've always been very passionate about Kenyan brands. I always wear Kenyan brands. I use Kenyan brands. So it was something that came naturally to me. I really love the economic effect a made in Kenya brand has on people, which is sometimes something that we don't think of enough. But as I said before, if I am a Kenyan brand, I am employing young Kenyans, I'm making an impact to many other, families and Kenyans. So for me, it's been just a journey of discovery, of learning new products, of, making the products a little bit more visible in my own little way. So I've really enjoyed it. Lessons learned is that from now it's going to be a yearly event, hopefully bigger next time, hopefully better. And I believe, and just having spoken to some of the CEOs and founders of the company that I featured, that this is something we must do. It's something we must do constantly. It's something that we must show other Kenyans that, young Kenyans are doing things. And it's that trickle down effect that that we're looking for.
Trickle down effect that affects everybody, that creates impact, the power of the brand. In fact, you wrote a book about that, right? Visibility is more important than ability. I hope I got that correct. But anyway, the whole essence of what you were writing is you have to be visible. You have to put yourself out there. Otherwise, how will people buy your products or your service? So tell us, what was the inspiration behind that book, and how you became an author? And how is that experience?
Thank you so much. And I know you had said it in the beginning, and I was actually going to forget it completely. So I did a book on personal branding. I am huge on branding because I've been in that space for a long time. I've got experience from both the advertising side and the media side. And the convergence usually comes in because you see things and you almost wish they packaged it differently. You see somebody and you wish they packaged themselves differently. So because of that, because of that, Mama.
I won't take too much of your time. We'll end soon, so it's okay.
Because of that, I decided to write a book. It's called Be Unforgettable. So I published it as an ebook on Amazon, but I pulled it down so that I can build a little bit more on it and hopefully launch it at some point early next year. So it's something I'm very proud of. And it's a very practical book, including steps and step-by-step guides on how to a step-by-step guide on how to build your personal brand. So after every chapter, there's a small exercise, where you ask yourself questions from what do you think your personal mission is? The same way a big brand like Safaricom would use a strategy is the same way you should use a strategy. You said, my favorite statement, it's not my original statement, but it's a statement I love. Visibility is more important than ability. You may be the best at what you do, but if people don't know you or have never heard of you, then unfortunately in 2020, then you don't exist.
Yes, and now that there's so much going on in the world, you need to put yourself out there. And it's not easy, especially for women. I know it's not been easy for me. And a lot of women in business, I see the same thing. No one wants to put themselves out there, and visibility is not easy, right? But it's necessary. It's very, very, very necessary. So thank you again, Terryanne, for mentioning that. We are out of time because usually the show is for about 1 hour, but I do have to say there's Rachel on Facebook who says this: hi, Anne and Terryanne, I really enjoy these discussions. I can attest to what you're talking about. For 9 years, I did run youth film platform organization Kenya for 9 years. But this year, when the pandemic hit home and with all the ups of it, I thought it was the right time to expand to Africa. And now 6 months down the line, we're training students from 6 African countries online. Wow. And later this year, all these students will be coming to Kenya to make a film. So we're exporting training services. Really amazing, the opportunities that we have with the new normal. Wow, Rachel, that is really, really great to hear that.
like we've lost our host.
Hi, Terryanne.
Hello there.
She's back.
Anne is back. Okay.
Hi, Terryanne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can now.
Okay. Sorry about that. My internet just went off and I'm not too sure why, but we were actually coming towards the end of the show. And I want to thank everyone who joined in today on Zoom and actually everyone who joined in on Facebook. I really, really do appreciate that, and we'll continue having more conversations about businesses. How can you grow scalable, successful, and sustainable business? That is what I am championing around creating wealth, and I'm really, really, really passionate about that because I believe that is the essence of creating generational wealth. So you'll continue seeing me doing this business conversation. You'll continue seeing us at Africa, which is the company I founded, do many things around supporting businesses, especially
Hannah, it looks like we have lost Anne again. Look, technical hitch there.
Yeah, seems like.
Okay. Will you close it?
Let me try get through to her.
Okay.
She's changing networks, so she'll just be joining back right now.
No problem.
Hello, I am back. I apologize again, and thank you, Terryanne, for patiently waiting. But I was just asking before it goes off again, just for your last remarks, that you can encourage all of us to run great businesses and especially build successful brands. So go ahead, Terryanne.
Thank you so much, Anne. My final words would be for those who are starting out in business or thinking of starting out in business, specifically if you do not have a job or something you're dependent on, please start. And yesterday I was in a conversation where somebody asked, is everybody cut out for business? Is everybody an entrepreneur? And I said the answer is no. But it's easier to actually create a stream of income, especially if you're not doing anything at all, than it is to just, sit and depend on other people. And starting a business is starting with anything that you have. You don't have to wait for the 50,000 bob, the 100,000 bob, the 2 million to start. So wherever you are and with whatever you have, if you're passionate about something and you've seen that there is a possibility that I can make money from this, please do so. Another thing that I'd like to say, which really, really upsets me, is this copycat business type businesses that we do, where if somebody starts selling handbags, we're all suddenly selling handbags. If somebody starts selling shoes and we need to completely stop that. And which means that we're not starting businesses with the right purpose, and you talked about the why earlier. So think about the kind of business that you want to engage in. Look for an edge, be different. If somebody's selling handbags, then you can sell, I don't know, something else that goes with handbags, belts, I don't know, something else. But let's stop copycatting. I always, when I go to town, I'm like, okay, shop number 45. I'm like, shop number 22 actually has the same things that shop number 45 has. So why do I have to go upstairs?
Yeah.
So let's just differentiate our business and let's be serious about business. If we can get into the manufacturing side, even better, because then we have a bigger impact and we create a bigger impact. And I feel that that's where we can actually create wealth a lot more than just being traders in that sense. So that's my final word. And
Okay, thank you, Terryanne, for those amazing words. It's about creating business. Be serious about business, creating wealth. Stop that copycat mentality. I totally agree with that. Be innovative, be a problem solver. That's how businesses are run, and that's how you make a lot of business. And I really, really, really love what you say, Terryanne. And I just hope more people can be very intentional and create brands so that they can make a lot of money for themselves and generations to come. And so with that, I want to thank all of you again for joining Business Conversations with Gaitha. And we're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. just sharing with you things that we believe will help you grow and support your business as you plan on the next big thing, because we are trying to say you don't only brand, but you want to be a global brand. You don't only have to be an African brand, but you want to be a global brand. You basically want to be the best in the industry that you are in. And of course, if you ever have any requests around business services, business advisory services, we at Regal Africa are really focused on that. That's what we do. And we're there to support businesses to take them to where they want to be. It all starts with the vision that you have, and then you find the right people who will help you take that vision into reality. And so with that, I want to thank you again for joining Business Conversations with Gaitha, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Terryanne. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.